Yes, when the pain sets in, and it's gonna set in, what are you doing?
The Pursuing Excellence podcast is built on the command standard and designed for one reason: to make you a better leader, a better person, and to go make a difference in the world. Let's go. Welcome to the Pursuing Excellence podcast, hosted by Command Standard. I'm your host, Chris Roundtree, and I'm here with Mr. David Park. Yes, of the book Focal Point, and we're going to talk about this book. This book is something that when I met you, we'll talk about how we met, but I'm really big into when people want to share their story and putting it in the book like this and what you wrote here and talking about your story and how you've triumphed over so many things. It's incredible to me, the adversity that you faced. And so I just wanted to ask you about this. On this
Mhm.
episode, we're going to do, it's called Beyond the Book. So I got to read the book, but I have questions beyond the book,
Sure.
right? And so that's what these questions will kind of be pointed towards. I have a few of them pulled up here, which we'll get to in a second. But what I really wanted to hear from is you a little bit. If you'll tell me just a little bit of your story, what's in here, what's not, but just more of David Park.
Yeah. Uh, pretty much I've been blessed to have a really good coaching career. The I've coached a lot of championship teams, and that was the blessing side of it. The uh, but among other things, I was actually headed to regionals, and all of a sudden, I find myself in the hospital, and I have stage 4 cancer, and that'll sure realign what's important. I remember before the doctor came in telling me this, what my problem was. I was still texting coaches, okay, make sure this happens. We've, you know, I was still doing logistics for the next week, and that'll change your mindset. And so basically, what I originally wrote it for was more of a legacy piece because I always kind of kept to myself as far as, everybody saw Coach Part, but very few people saw David. And so it was time, uh, even when my wife read the first draft, she came in the room crying and said, I didn't know some of these things. And it was like,
That's powerful right there. I mean,
yes,
to get to know what you said is interesting. And I'll probably cut you off a few times during what we're
go.
talking because I want to get to know you more. And but what you said was interesting was people know Coach Park, but they don't know David, right? But on top of that, you were also saying that you operated out of Coach Park even when David needed help. Did that make sense?
Yes.
And I think I read that in your book too. And that's servant leadership,
Hmm.
100% servant leadership. Um, so yeah, tell me just a little bit more about
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm uh, the the servant leadership part is when it all the method took off in my career took off. I I knew my sport. I knew cross country. I knew track and field. I knew it backwards, forwards. I knew the science. I knew every little thing there was about it. But we couldn't get over the hump.
that. What was that hump?
That hump was, breaking through to major championships. Maybe not just winning a district, but when push came to shove, we weren't in that upper echelon. One day, a friend of mine who was in the upper echelon told me to read two books by John Maxwell. This 17 irrefutable laws, or excuse me, the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership and the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. And I read those in about 3 days total.
Isn't it funny when you find something you think is going to work, you just are fully immersed and go all in?
Yes. And when I immersed in it, I knew I had to get that information, but more importantly, that culture to my kids, my team. And so that first summer, we went through the entire teamwork book. and I made the captains go through the leadership book with me, and everybody had to read it. And the whole dynamic changed at that point. And so I kept thinking, okay, we got to touch on this every day. So that's when in my book, the kids nicknamed it the 545 sermon because it was going to be about five.
I like those too.
It was going to be about 5 minutes of who we are and what we're built upon. Had nothing to do with the science. I would tell them that as well, but and suddenly the team was so cohesive and so tight. Uh, it, it got bad for the parents because those kids, well, at Keller, I had almost 160, and those kids traveled in a pack.
They
And
were.
if they hit your house, there was not going to be a speck of food left. And the parents were always saying, well, let's just all donate and that sort of stuff. But they did, they moved as one. And because they were teammates before they were runners.
And let me hit on something real fast that you said in your book here. Um, you this is a quote from your book. We are not runners on a
Yes.
team. We are a team that runs. And just to add on to that real fast, something that I'd love you to go a little bit deeper into is when you said the dynamic changed. Um, what I speak to people a lot about is breaking through barriers of identity. And it sounds like
Yes.
the team identity, the identity of not just the team, but it takes individuals' identity to change for the team to
Correct.
realign. Is that what you were seeing?
Yes. Everybody that was had to have that servant mindset to everybody else on the team. And, they couldn't, we even talked about the fact that, you know, the one saying in the book, if you put yourself first, you're going to find you're going to eventually finish last. It's not till you put yourself last and others first do you have a chance to finish first. And we even had the mindset, well, if there's 100 of us and we're putting everybody else first and ourselves last, then I've got 99 other people putting me first. And that's powerful. That's huge.
I think if you could wrap your mind around that concept alone,
Yes.
if you look back in history, they talk about when armies would try to come and defeat a neighboring city or town or a providence. Um, Instead of everybody just gathering together, every man was supposed to build up his wall, right? But he
Hmm.
relied on the person to the left and the person to the right. And kind of what you're saying brings that power into it is
Yes.
I'll do my job, but I'm also relying on you to take care of me. And I'm relying on you over here to take care of me, and I will take care of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was, uh, they just became subservient to their teammates. And I even talked about you got 100 kids on the team and only seven, that's 50 guys, only seven of them can be varsity and only seven of the girls can be varsity. Well, then what's the other 43 do?
Is that the only seven can compete in varsity?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
not make it, but only can compete. So they realize coming into the season that only seven of us are actually going to be
Going
able
to
to
be
compete,
whole
even if we can make it.
as
Then
we called it, those seven are the flag bearers.
there we go.
And
I like it. You gave them an identity right there for the
yes,
team.
and
100%.
uh, but everybody else, we had a motto of pushing up from the bottom. In other
Right.
words, if I'm the slowest runner on the team and I work my tail off to get faster, well, the guy right above me has got to work his tail off to get faster. We would push from the bottom, and so many times in workouts, and because we were that way, 4 years, I had a young lady that was extremely fast. Okay, I'm talking junior nationals, and she's running in a high school uniform, and everybody else is in collegiate uniforms, and uh, she wasn't being served working out with the girls group. I wasn't pushing her, so I just plugged her in on the guy side, and said, "Hey, everybody hears about your speed, and you're all going to try to get better together." And so um, the guys didn't take it as, "Oh my gosh," I mean, it was anything to make her better. We're all in.
Where yeah,
Anything to make we're we're just in.
it's interesting once you have that team concept about you, and you can lay self down, and put others first in that servant leadership. So I was teaching in a class 2 days ago, and we talked about this specific thing because they were asking, and this is higher level leadership, and if they have these questions, I'm sure everybody has the questions, but they were asking, we have a budget, but how do I know when to send myself to training? How do I know when to invest in myself or to invest in my team, or what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer I gave them was, what gives you the most return? If you invest in you and you give it to the team, is there more return there? Or if you invest in them and you give it back? And the other thing is, I see this happen all the time where leaders will go to a conference, they'll go to whatever it is, but then they hold on to that, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that's selfish. I think if you get something, it should flow through you
Absolutely.
to others. And it sounds like you developed a program where what you were bringing, the 545 sermons, and the leadership you were bringing in was flowing from you to those individuals out to the rest of the team,
Yes.
to the point the bottom, it was flowing back up to the top.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And but it was one of those things that and once it ignited, it feeds on itself. And it and everybody, we're greater than the sum of our parts.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you the countless times that somebody uh, would step up because they saw the team was in trouble. I had one young man that at state we ended up winning by 2 points.
What is that? Give me a little, what does 2 points mean?
Okay.
Give me a little, reference point.
Okay. Basically, how cross country is scored is it's let's say there's 100 people in a race.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody that crosses the finish line gets a number. The first gets the one, number 100 gets the 100.
So you want, it's like golf. You want the
It's
lowest.
the lowest score.
Okay.
But what you do is you add your best five. Okay. And that's your score. All right. Your best five finishers. Your sixth is a tiebreaker. If my
Okay.
sixth is better than your sixth, we broke the tie. And your seventh is what I called a pusher. In other words, my number seven that day cannot score for me. He can't break a tie, but he can slip ahead of somebody's number five and push their number
Down a little bit.
larger. Yeah.
Yeah. So push the other team's number down and our number.
Up. And 6 and 7 both I considered pushers,
Mhm.
but six could definitely uh, win that battle. And but I had one of them I put in the book about a young lady. I mean, it is miserable, and all it was a regional meet, and everybody said, "Well, it's going to come down to Keller or Coppell." And I mean, and sure enough, I mean, it was miserable. It was wet. Kids got mud. There's water everywhere.
Worst conditions possible,
Yes,
probably. Yeah.
and sure enough, it took 3 minutes for everybody to figure out. Yep, here it comes. We're lining up,
Hmm.
and I mean, it's close. And my five crosses, and so my score is done. Okay, there's nothing we can do.
You can't get any smaller of a score. It is
That
what it is at
it
that
is
point.
at that point. And I look, and coming out of the trees was my number six and one of the Coppell kids, and they are battling. I mean, mud's flying. They're coming all the way to the finish. She could have said, "Well, I'm number six. Our score's set." She could have coasted in. Instead, she dives to beat that other girl. Well, that other girl happened to be their number five, which brought us into a tie which this was before chips, where you can't just watch it. Which, if she's ahead of their number five, she's ahead of their number six, obviously. And we ended up breaking that tie, not only because she was the best six, she also pushed a five down.
Yeah. So if she wouldn't have got across the line, you wouldn't have tied in the first place to
Correct.
make that. So by her effort going into it,
Yes,
which brings to the point that everybody on the team has a job to do.
absolutely. That's yes. Everybody's got a job to do. And matter of fact, even you go to a big meet, and we talk about the the finish or the start line's not very big a lot of the times, and it's hard to get your spot. Well,
Are you talking about the how wide it is?
yes,
So it's narrow and you're either in the front or maybe
yeah,
somewhere in the
and
back. That's your two
so
choices.
pretty much, and so what we would do is, but I wanted my seven warming up. I didn't want them just standing there at the start line. I mean, when we got to the start line, we wanted to be sweating, hot, ready to rumble. Okay. So my JV would go save our spot. In other words, I'd get seven girls or seven boys,
To go get your spot in line.
and they'd sit there for 30, 40 minutes.
So when you do these races, they are there. It's like the
Everybody's there.
parents picking up kids at school an hour and a half early. Like they are there
Yes.
wanting that spot because that's
Yes.
important ground to
And
hold.
then when the JV races start, the varsities have, during the varsity boys race, the girls are cooling down. By the time that's over, then they circle around and then they save the spots for the junior varsities.
Okay.
Everybody's taking
You've
care
got a
of
whole system working.
yeah, everybody's taking care of each other. And be it
Did anybody ever call y'all out on that, or like, would they even know that you
no,
guys
no,
are
no,
saving
no,
spots, or do they do that as well?
they thought it was smart. Well, they started doing it,
They, yeah,
but
they caught on.
they caught on to
You're
what
like,
we were
shh, don't
doing,
tell anybody
you
our
know,
secret. Yeah,
and and things like that, and just other things that we would do as a team. One of the things was the parents always want to set up that they want to do what they can for the team.
yeah.
Okay, so you know all these schools would get there early and set up their tents, their parents, and then and so forth. But our tradition was no, the freshmen are going to set the tent because they got to learn to serve before they can learn to lead. And
I like
so
that.
the
Yes.
the freshmen would set up the tent, and then the seniors would take the tent down.
So say that one more time. I think that's powerful.
The freshmen would set it up,
And
the
they have to
tents,
learn
and
to serve.
serve, and but then the seniors would tear it down.
Okay.
Would and that and usually though, I say the seniors, well, everybody would end up just
Helping each other out,
helping each
probably.
just help
But
each
I
other.
I love that. I want to just revisit that. I think if we could just capitalize on that in our teams,
Yes.
you got to learn to serve before you can learn to lead. Oh my goodness.
Well,
That would be such an amazing thing for people to
yes, and
just grasp just
you know,
that concept.
our saying, if you think about it, was freshmen, they don't know that they don't know.
Yeah.
And we always talked about them being blank chalkboards. What are we going to write on them? And then your sophomores know they don't know. The juniors don't know that they do know. And then the seniors know that they know. So our team dynamic was, especially during the summer, we would have a sophomore that we would pair up with a freshman to
I think you wrote
mentor,
about that in
yes,
here
to
too. Yeah.
mentor them. Okay. And then a junior had to serve up and down. Once the year before, they had mentored a sophomore that was at that time a freshman.
Okay.
They're going to serve down to them because that's going to be their go to. Hey, what do I do here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then they got to support the seniors and the captains because this is their team. So they're serving both directions. And then the seniors are serving downward. But when I say that, it's a very much a servant leadership. It's not go do this. It's, well, let me show you how.
Yeah.
And
I think, well, I want to hold on that concept too real fast. I think one of the most important things that leaders miss today, we don't understand. When somebody, let's just say somebody starts a new job, I talk about setting expectations, and
Yes.
then we talk about setting the environment. It's part of the leadership loop that I go through. Um, but what people do is they use this phrase, well, they should know what to do. But people don't know what to do, right? Most of
No.
the time, they have an idea, but they don't know your exact expectations. And so I took that even further and kind of came up with this concept of people, um, they don't necessarily know what to do. And when you tell them what to do, unless they can see it in their mind for
Right.
themselves, they still don't quite get it. And so there's a failure. We call it like the gap, right? The gap is
Mhm.
between the intent of what we want and the execution. And
Yes.
there's that gap. And when you can line those up, that's what I call excellence when those line up between intent and execution. Well, that gap is there. But the problem is you promote somebody up and you say, hey, we run them through this program or this system.
Right.
Like if you want this result, this is how you do it, go get it. But if they don't see it in their head, they don't get it.
Exactly.
So what I tell leaders, managers, anybody I deal with now is, have you sat down with them and walked through this process? You have to do a crucial conversation with an employee. Have you actually sat down with them and
Mhm.
gone through that with your team there? Hey, to mentor up, do they know what it looks like in their head, or are you just sending them out to do that? Because once you sit down, I think they have the confidence to be able to do that. It sounds like you had a program set up where they weren't just telling them, but they were walking through it with them,
Yes.
mentoring.
Well, it's really not a stretch. It's really a body realignment. At the end of the workout, it's called PNF stretching. And we call it PNF because it's easier than saying proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. But
Yeah, it's easier than saying that.
there's too many kids. I can't do everybody. So I've taught it to them that they do each other. And for the first 2 weeks, the seniors are going to stretch the freshmen. And while they're stretching them, they'll show them, okay, you're going to put your knee, it's going to face this armpit. And they walk them through the whole thing. And then they lay down and say, okay, your turn. And make the freshmen stretch them. And, if they're doing it wrong, no, no, point the knee over here. Okay, good. Now your hand needs to be on the ankle, things like that, to where they get it. And then it's team wide. But what you touched on, yes,
And you're only one person. So you, like you said earlier, you can only do so much.
yes,
And if you don't learn how to delegate properly, which sounds like you were able to effectively do with a group of high schoolers out of all
yes.
people, right?
And Chris, the thing about it is you can't raise up leaders if you don't let them lead. And during the summer in June and July, okay, I made the workout,
Mm-hmm.
but I gave it to the seniors, and the seniors were going to implement it with the team. Okay, did I go to practice? Yes. I shut my mouth. All I wanted to do was get to know the new people, hang out.
Yeah, and I know you specifically talked about it in here that this. Can you tell me again because so much good information? But the summer belonged to the
Yes,
seniors.
we had a saying, June is yours, talking about the
Okay,
seniors.
yes.
July is ours. I may interject here and there, okay? And August is mine. But see, all the heavy lifting by August has been done. Every freshman, new person, rookie, they knew our stretching. They knew our routines. They knew everything that we would do.
What we would say in our day and age, all the automated, all
Yes,
the basic tasks that should be done to go to the next level. It sounds like you had that done. So when you come in, you can be
yes,
the most effective at being a leader that you are because that you can start fine tuning to that next level. That's what I'm
exactly.
hearing.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a great place to be. That's a
So
great
yeah,
place to be in.
and it's so funny because people would laugh at me at meets. Well, I don't know if they laughed, but I'd see coaches scurrying around to make sure their kids were warming up properly, and I'd be drinking coffee,
So while they're chasing them around and doing all this stuff, you're sitting there.
drinking coffee, visiting with
Yep.
people. I don't need to know that my kids are at the starting line because I know they are.
I'll tell you, when I would set up and we would run a SWAT operation, we would I would spend a lot of time planning and contingencies, and you look at all this stuff, and
Hmm.
Um, I think Jocko Willink talks about it, like the dichotomy of leadership.
Oh, I
You
like
want to keep your people safe, but you're also about to put them in harm's way. And like, how can we mitigate risk? And you
mhm,
look at all of these things, right? But when the actual operations were going down or happening, or we're doing security type of stuff for a big event where we have snipers up in the rafters and all this stuff, when all of that's going on, if you ever watched me, I would same thing you were. I had a cup of coffee
mhm,
and I was a top level watching all the big things that actually mattered
yes,
instead of running around chasing all the things because I'd built it in
mhm,
beforehand. This is this is the system we're going to use. You take ownership of yourself. You need to be where you need to be, and I built that in. And it sounds like you do that with your kids as well. It was built in. They knew where they're supposed to be. They knew that what they're supposed to do,
yes,
and you could spend your time looking at, okay, what does this team have? What do we need to do here? Who do I need to put
yes.
in? Yeah.
That way I can look globally at things as far as, another thing I never did was I never timed. I wanted to, uh we had people to do that. I wanted to
Every
watch.
movie you see coaches like
Yes,
it,
no.
you know who the
I
coach is
wanna
because
I
so
wanna
that wasn't you.
watch. I wanna watch. I wanna see, "Hey, wait,
Okay.
that okay, he's struggling. Why is he struggling?" You know, "Oh, so for something I can work on the next week." Okay, yeah, his arms are high. Okay, that's or or various things.
So I want to say this real fast. It kind of blows my mind. I love this conversation. So what every other coach I've seen do, we'll just pretend my phone is the thing,
Uh-huh.
and they click the timer, right? Um, what I'm hearing from you is you actually found a separate set of metrics that mattered more,
Mhm.
and that's what you focused on.
Yes.
You focused on this long-term set of metrics that mattered more than just what's a short-term thing right here.
Right.
And then you freed yourself up to focus on those and let everybody else deal with
Right.
that.
If
That's
a
amazing.
good
Yes.
example is a track meet more than a cross country because cross country everybody's spread out.
Mhm.
But uh, I would go out inside the oval and I would stand as far away from the start finish line as I could. Okay, I wanted to be by myself so I could watch on that back stretch. I could watch the runners coming at me because that teaches you so much. And if I'm
You're
not,
talking about at the very end of the race when they're all worn down, you can see exactly who they are coming.
yes,
Okay.
because I think, and this is a little bit of a law enforcement, but it stuck with me too. People don't rise to the occasion. People sink to their lowest level of training when the pain
100%.
when the
We would agree with you.
well, I know
Yes.
when that's where I got it actually.
Oh, is it okay?
Yes, when the pain sets in, and it's gonna set in. What are you doing? Okay, and we had a deal where, and I stole it from John McDonald, probably one of the greatest track coaches to ever live. At that point, when you feel that way, it's time to check your instruments. It's time, you know, is my knee still good? Is my wrist still good? Is my thumbs where they need to be? And suddenly you're starting to take your mind off the pain. You're checking your instruments. You're at the end of your rope, so to speak.
Yeah.
Adrenaline's gone, lactate's building. Matter of fact, you're about to go. We even train the kids, and it's painful, but a lot of people don't realize the the remnants of lactic acid after you've blown through an aerobic and anaerobic and you hit the lactate threshold. You can burn the trash. You can burn the remnants of the lactic acid, and that's going to give you about a 3 minute window before you bonk.
Okay.
But you got to challenge your body to get to that, to train it to use it. Okay. Or you just bonk without it. And I wouldn't, I've even had college coaches come as we did that workout and they go, "How do you get away from pushing them that hard?" And I said, "Because they want me to. You know, they don't care what you know until they know that you care." And that is, uh, one coach, I'll leave him nameless, but from a prominent university around here, he said they would fire me if I did that. And we literally had parents because trying to get them to that lactate zone, your body says,
You
no,
got to be pushing them
you
to the
gotta,
max to get there,
yes.
right? So give me a little perspective. That's what I was going to ask you. Two questions off of that. Number one, how many people, percentage wise in the world, do you think have ever made it to that zone? I'm assuming a 0.00001 of a percent.
Yes,
Like,
a fraction of 1%, a
so
small
what we're
fraction.
talking about, people probably don't understand as much. Um, I I've worked out my whole life. I've pushed myself, and I know we used to do SWAT competitions, and
Yeah.
we would push ourselves. But I don't even think I pushed myself that hard. I'll be honest with you. I'm sure what you're
If
talking
you're in
about is
that
that
zone,
next
it's
level.
easy. Um, the next day you won't be sore, you'll be empty. You know how you push yourself real hard, you wake up and you're, oh, my muscle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's all gone because that soreness is the
So
remnant.
you've burned all of that out.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And the kids are like, dude, coach, I couldn't make it up the stairs, but I wasn't sore. I'm like, yes, you did it, and we don't race that week either, by the way. It takes a long time to come back. But you get into a sprint at the end of a race and you can sprint and they can't. And also mentally it's like a badge of honor they wore.
Yeah. We'll talk about like on the daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
If I get up in the morning and I work out and it's a hard workout and I earn it, I feel good. I feel
Yes.
good that I've accomplished something. And I can only imagine um, what they would feel like being able to make it through something that 0.00001 of a percent have ever even
Yes.
experienced in their life. You made it through that, right? I
Yes.
I'm sure that you, as well as I've been to training classes and we've been to stuff. And at the end of the week, the test is a joke. It's not taken serious. I don't care. But I've been to, when I went through police motorcycle training,
Uh-huh.
you think it's easy and it looks easy. And I was a heck of an athlete growing up. So I figured I would get on the motorcycle and like, let's go. I rode dirt bikes. This shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
I almost quit. In the middle. I'm not even kidding. It was, oh my gosh, just flashbacks. I'll tell you this much. It's a 2-week course. I probably fell down about 150 times, which is par for the course
Yeah.
because when you're learning and you're navigating sharp turns
I'm
and
sure the center of gravity on
yes.
those things are crazy.
Yeah, and it's the Harley Davidson Road King is
Yeah.
what we use, and it's interesting because your brain will tell your mind what to do, but it's just not happening. Now,
Yeah.
physically, it wasn't as hard as what you were saying, but mentally, that was one of the
Yes.
hardest things that I've ever been through. That I can admit mentally going because it wasn't clicking. We went down to Houston, so I spent a week there, came back for the weekend, and two of the guys that I went with, I was a sergeant at the time, and they were officers, but they were becoming MTOs, which is a motorcycle training
Okay.
officer. And so they actually had 3 weeks. They go down a week before me. They did their week of MTO like preparing, and then they teach us for 2 weeks, and that's how they check them off.
Yeah.
The only time in Houston I've ever known that it snowed for 3 days in a row. We went down there. It was a crazy. I got pictures of it. It was insane. But on the weekend when we were all coming back together, I looked at them and I said, "Well, how do you think I'm doing? You think I'm doing all right?" And they were just dead silent, which told me they didn't think I was going to pass.
Yeah.
They were like, "There's no way you're going to pass." They're like, "Well, maybe it'll click for you." They kept
Yeah.
saying that. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is not happening right
Yeah.
now. Why is this so difficult?" And it was the most. You'd have guys that would fall down, get up, kick a cone over, throw stuff, just every vulgar word you can think of under the
Sure.
sun. Frustrated because we can't get this. And then it was a Thursday that it clicked in my mind. For some reason, everything clicked, and I made like a 92 on the course, and I passed. I can't
Yes.
believe I did that, but it took all the way up until
Yes.
there to go through. Anyways, I just mentally would put that in line with kind of what you're saying. It's there's anguish involved with it. It's frustrating, but the moral of the story that I'm telling is when I got done and I got my certificate, you know how proud of that certificate I
Mm-hmm.
was because of how much effort and work and it was one of the harder things I've ever done, but it meant a lot more to me. And
Yes.
I feel like when they go through a David Park workout, when they have all that at the end of it, like that's a badge of honor.
That particular workout we only did twice a year, and it was towards the end, right before what we called championship season. And somebody says, well, why didn't you do it earlier? And I was like, because they're not in shape to be successful at this work. If I did this in August, number one, everybody quit.
The new people are like, I don't want any part of
Yeah, I
this
don't,
anymore.
because
Yeah.
basically what it was, Chris, was um, it was 16 300s. This is on the track, 16 300s. Your
Whew.
rest was a 100-meter jog.
What was the effort they gave on those 300s?
Okay, that's what I'm getting
Okay,
to.
okay, go for it.
This is the kicker part. Okay, in sets of four, you had to go even or better. So in other words, uh, you couldn't go back. And so let's say a male, let's say he ran his first one in 50. Okay,
That's a decent pace on a
that's
300.
right.
Already starting out,
Yeah,
yes.
got to get better. And if he runs a 48, okay, now that's the baseline. And what you want to do, but again, you explain it to them. Okay, guys, I'm getting you the first 12 are just here for me to get to the last four because that's and I'll just we called it the suck zone because everything's going to really suck. But and I'd even kind of tell them things that they'd be feeling. They're not going to be rational. They might start getting a little bit of tunnel vision. We called it. They're going to do the goldfish where they're trying to gulp air. No, they're getting plenty of air. They just
Their brain is just not used to functioning on a
and
level.
I would be in the jog spot. I would have my assistants while they were running cheering, but I wanted to be in the jog to sometimes pull them along. No, 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 you're walking. We got to jog. We got to jog. You know, don't, you just did 12. Don't mess up the last four because you're going to
You're
be
already
mentally.
almost there. You might as well finish this now. Yeah.
They learned a lot about themselves.
How well could they keep up with that pace? If you're telling them you can't do worse, did
They would, they would do it.
they would? Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
The first time I'd be a little like for a freshman,
Mm-hmm.
we'll negotiate a little bit. Okay. But once they've done the workout and they've already had the motor learning of it, they need to stick with it. The key was now I would usually give them the first four in case they went too fast. And I knew, hey, you can't keep this up.
Yeah,
Okay. So, like, say somebody ran a 45 on the first one and say, hey, let's back that down.
that might be a little too
Let's back
much.
that down to 50. Now, I I I would hope you got a 42 on number 16 because that's when you're just letting it fly. But there's some coaching in there, and but it always paid dividends just because they knew they always thought they had another gear. They always thought they had another gear.
And it sounded like you helped them find that many times.
Yeah, people are capable, Chris, far more than what they give themselves credit for. Okay, so many times uh, we don't mind disappointing ourselves.
Talk to me a little bit more about that. That I agree with you
Yeah,
100%.
I've seen it because you know I see somebody run a mile in the track and they're an individual. Okay, or say 2 miles because well let's make it a girl. Let's make it 2 miles, and they'll run much faster in cross country because they don't want to disappoint their teammates. They're okay when the pain sets in track. Well, I'm only disappointing me. But when you buy into that team concept that we're in it for everybody else,
Yes.
you're gonna walk out on that ledge and you're gonna do what is required of you. Who was it that said that? Winston Churchill said, "Sometimes the best you can do is not enough. Sometimes you have to do what's required." And
I like that.
yeah,
Yes.
and that's when you're disappointing yourself. You say, "Well, that's the best I could do." But when you got other people dependent on you, you got to do what's
There's
required.
another gear in there.
There is
Yes.
another gear.
I would say it is people not understanding the power they have in their identity.
Yes.
And actually, I would like to. There's a ton of stuff in here that we've talked about, but I would like you to talk a little bit more about identity because you go into your faith in this
Yes.
book here.
Yes.
And I think that that's super important because, well, let's put it this way. In law enforcement, if you're somebody who's worked in the field, let's say patrol, which is where you go
Mhm.
on the street and you answer calls and people love that type of job. But then they move you to another section, maybe to the jail section, just because of staffing needs, or maybe they want to get you more experience. What you'll see is you'll see people tank
Mhm.
and they'll just absolutely hate it, become bitter and toxic because what they've done is they've wrapped their identity in this concept called a job or
Mhm.
hey, I'm a patrol police officer, that's what I do, and then you move them out of that. So what your identity is and what I try to teach people is your identity is to be wrapped in something that doesn't change. It's
Correct.
immovable. it's
Mhm.
it's steady like a rock, right? Um and I know for my identity, it's wrapped in Jesus,
Yes.
right? It's wrapped in God, and He never changes. You talk about that in here, especially when you're going through your cancer, especially all the troubles and tribulations. Can you give me a little insight into that?
I'll give you some outside,
Well, give me some outside.
which
Yes.
is the cover of the book.
Let's see
The
this right here. Yes, look at that cover right there.
Okay, that's how our priorities need to form. Okay, uh, my Lord and Savior is the bullseye. Period. End of story. And the ring outside of that is my family. Okay, the ring outside of that are my goals. And I found early on when all of a sudden, I put that with my teams. I mean, I tell them, you know, we got to have our priorities straight for us to be successful. Because I find if you put your goals in the wrong ring or if you put them in the center of what you're doing, not only are you not going to get that, but you're not going to get the other things either. But when you keep Jesus as center and your family and your goals, you know, all of my accolades, trophies, Hall of Fames, those things, those were out number four for me because my number three were the kids I was serving. All right.
Hmm.
And that, in my mind, is the way to be successful. And that's why the cover is the way it is. When I was uh, going through the cancer, one thing, I was taking this targeted medicine, and and I would pray every day when I took the pill. Soon my prayers turned to pictures. And somebody said, "Oh, visions." I said, I don't, I, I never had visions, but I got pictures. And there was, and
I see something.
I
Yeah.
see something, uh, but I could see that just being destroyed. And I had extreme confidence that it was going to happen. And, you know, maybe I didn't have the faith of a mustard seed to move a mountain, but I think I did have enough faith to move a tumor.
I got you.
but and even some of the things uh, that transpired after that I'd put in the book that you don't make that stuff up. And the so yeah, I mean, you want to be successful, get your priorities right. And and if you shortchange something that you say is more important, then you're you got a chance of not winning at anything. And the first thing you need to win at is your faith.
Well, and the Bible says where your treasure is, there your heart is, right? Like
Yes.
you can tell by a person where their heart is by what they speak, what they do, what they spend their time on.
Yes.
You said so in chapter 14 here. You said people do not decide their futures; they decide their choices. Their choices decide their habits, and their habits decide their
Yes.
future.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in habits teach discipline, and they're almost interchangeable terms. When I start a runner in the summer, okay, here we got a kid that's a sedentary kid that mom and dad want them to become part of the cross country. They heard it was a great team, great culture, and I'd tell mom and dad,
but
I'd say,
but
look,
no experience or anything. They're
yes,
just
I'd tell mom and dad, I said, you get them here for 3 weeks and I'll keep them. And what I was trying to do, I would actually be very light on them. I couldn't expect them to do,
some of the stuff these kids have been doing for years,
yeah, I
and
mean, I'll be honest, our warm up would be challenging.
yeah,
And that's usually where we started the warm up. And that's all I'd have them do that day. But I wanted that habit to form of getting up in the dark, throwing on some clothes, and getting out the door. That was habit number one.
there's an interesting story, and I want to hear your next habits. But it was a guy that I think he posted on YouTube, but he would go to he wanted to start working out, but he couldn't get into the habit of it. So what he did is he went to the gym every day, but he wouldn't work out. He would just scan his thing
Yeah.
and walk out. He did it for 30 days straight. And then day 31, he went in there, scanned it, lifted one weight, and walked out. But over time, consistently doing that, guess what?
Yes.
He's got a full workout, but he made it a habit to what? Get up and go to the gym.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's where you're starting these kids. They're like, just make it a habit to get here.
It's one of those deals, people, in the leadership and uh, life coaching world, they always say, well, we want to help you gain clarity. I got news. I think most people are pretty clear what they want. They just don't know how to get there.
Yes. Or their purpose in their heart. They know where they're supposed to be.
Yes.
And so looking at those rings on there, what I really like you said is my goals are on the outside. And what a lot of people do is their purpose is to achieve those goals. And when those
Yes.
fail, then they feel like a failure. But our
Yes.
purpose is to serve God. He's in
Yes.
the middle. That never fails. The goals
Right.
come and go, and we leave that
Yes.
outcome out to the world. That's why we can be what you said, very confident, extremely confident in what you're doing. So yeah, 100%.
You can build those things, but so many times people try to bite off more than they can chew.
Mm,
And
yes. Yeah.
and because the motivation is going to wane, that's always going to go away. You
New
got
Year's Eve resolution. Come on. And 2 days later, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah.
and that's why, like in our locker room, above the door, as everybody. I guess everybody stole from Notre Dame. Where they would all,
Oh, slap the sign up there. Yeah.
and ours just said consistency and commitment equal championships.
Simple. It's powerful though.
Yeah, be consistent, be committed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to happen. But it's going to be crock pot. It's not going to be microwave. Everybody wants things right now. And
That is so true. If it's not on your phone, you can't have it within about 5 seconds. We get frustrated and try to move
yes,
on.
and I can show you
Mm.
example after example of people that just stuck with the crock pot method that ended up with rings on their fingers by the time they were seniors. And we ain't got time today for me to tell you
Well, we'll have
how
to have part two.
how
We'll
bad
come back
some of
and
these
do this.
people ran as freshmen, but they just kept coming back.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, they became my favorite saying, Chris, is somebody say, man, so and so's running good. Maybe another coach or anything. And I'd look at them and I'd say, yeah, don't tell them they don't have any talent. They may slow down.
Yeah.
Because that perseverance and mindset uh, was is key. What's the old saying? Practice like you've never won and compete like you've never lost.
I like that. You had one habit that you told me about, was the habit of consistency, just showing up.
Yes.
Did you have more you wanted to add to that?
Number one, I wanted to be consistent for
Mm-hmm.
them. In other words, uh, anybody that's ran for me and their parents know this, when they arrive each morning at practice, I'm going to be standing outside to greet them as they come to the locker room. I'm not going to be in my office. I'm not going to be I'm going to be outside to greet them for two reasons. Number one, it's dark, and I don't have any daughters, so I got great daughter-in-laws, but
Just
I
saying.
wouldn't want I wouldn't want my daughters even walking from the car to, and I'm going to be there.
This world's a crazy place,
Yes,
nowadays.
and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to greet them, and I'm going to let them know I'm glad they're there every morning, and I mean not just some mornings, every morning. Hey, if it's raining, I got an umbrella. Okay, I mean I'm going to be consistent for them, and sometimes you got to model what you want them to be.
100%.
The last few years before I retired, Coach Huff and I we chuckled about it because he was much in the same cloth.
And I like Coach Huff, by the
Yeah,
way, a
he
lot. He
would.
seems like a really good
He
guy. Yeah.
he would be sitting when they leave. He'd be sitting in a chair by the door, and we would joke. He says, "You're going to make me stand outside before, and I'm going to make you at the end be there, by the door." But just nothing about cross country, nothing about football.
Just being there. Just being there.
Yeah, how are you today?
Yeah.
How's and so, but you got to model that consistency, and then they will. You wouldn't, they're watching. You know, I forget what coach said it. He goes, everybody says, "Well, kids are different today." No, they're not. It's what we're pouring in them's different. They come in a blank chalkboard. So, and you know, feed what's good to them.
Real fast, I'm gonna tell you the four laws of leadership that I've developed over time, but they match up perfectly. This leadership is in a servant model. It's all together. It's
Yeah.
cohesive, right? So law number one is great leaders operate out a definite purpose with passion and conviction to achieve shared goals. Boom. You hit that. You
Yeah.
nailed that, right? Number two, exactly what we're talking about here. Great leaders pursue excellence and model the way, holding others above the standard. It's exactly what you're doing, you're teaching, and you're having your kids do. Number three is great leaders maximize value by leveraging obstacles into opportunities and driving high impact outcomes. You were right on the mark with that as well. And then number four is one of my favorite ones. It's the
Okay.
law of scaling performance, and it sounds like a business term, but what it really means is how invested are you in the next generation. So it says great leaders scale performance by inspiring and empowering others to contribute at the highest level. And those are the four laws of
Yeah.
leadership that I operate a SWAT team out of.
Yeah.
And you operated a winning high school,
Yeah.
whole empire. I'll even say that a whole empire off of, right? But it's really that simple. What I think people do is that we, in a world of everything is so quick, we try to
Yes.
overcomplicate, and we try to.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be. Be a good human, show up for people, and serve them at the highest level.
Yeah.
And you were 100%. It sounded like you were able to do that
Chris,
through and through.
I appreciate that. One thing and I'll say for your viewers is I have launched, and this is, believe it or not, for youth. We all get all these self-help da 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 da.
That section in Barnes and Nobles just keeps growing, but nobody gets better. It seems
That's
like it's
right.
crazy.
And I'll use baseball. Okay. You know, all extracurricular
One of my
sport.
favorite sports, most American sport out there. I'm biased towards it.
We take our kids uh, to hitting lessons. We pitching lessons, fielding lessons. I'm just using baseball, but I mean, basketball, shooting, deep. I mean, we're going to pay people money because we want the best for our kids. We want to give them every opportunity to be a great baseball player, to be a great, well, and it can be in fine arts too. It could be voice lessons. It could be, I mean, it's not just athletics.
What you're saying is they find a skill that we think they're good at, and we'll invest money and
Yes.
time and effort
Yes.
to make them the best they can at that.
Yes. Part we're missing is the 90%.
Oh, tell me more about this.
Okay. And that is, I'm launching the Youth Champion Mindset program, where basically it doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be a runner. I mean, the things I was teaching my runners, I'd love to teach to a band kid that wants to really, anybody that wants to excel in anything. Okay. And the principles are in focal point. First, we got to get our house in order.
Mhm.
And what is it to be, you know, uh, a certain amount of toughness, okay? And I'm not just speaking physical tough. I'm speaking mental, the discipline, the habits. That's a toughness. That's acquired. That's you weren't born with it. You got to learn it. And so what I'm going to launch is something to go, okay, I want to be uh, a great volleyball player, and I'm going to take hitting lessons. I'm going to, uh,
All the physical skill work.
skill work. I'm going to do it. Okay, well, who who's going to make sure you follow through? And okay, let me tell you where this whole mindset
Yes.
dawned on me. I had a person approach me in the Metroplex that asked me if I could coach their child the best way to come out of the blocks to start. Yeah, piece of cake, you know? And so I actually met him over at Central High School, and I just, that's second nature to me. Okay, you're going to put your hands here, you're going to have a right angle
For
here.
you, simple, simple. You're just
Yeah.
teaching these skills that you've taught over and over
Over
before.
and over
Mhm.
again, okay, now, you know, I need you to be out over perpendicular and this. And, I remember Dad was there. He was just writing everything I was saying. Okay. And I got him coming out of the blocks pretty good. And so we were done. Dad paid me, and I was walking off to my car, and I said, he is as good as he's ever going to be right now if he doesn't get the reps. If he hadn't mentally strong to say, hey, I've got to go practice.
Basically, it's a consistency you were talking. If you're not
Yes.
doing the thing and you just learn it once,
Yes.
which real fast, I will tell you, we live in a society of YouTube superstars
Yeah.
that make a dude perfect trick shot. And guess what my boys want to do? They want to go out and just practice the one thing. I'm like, you have to get the basics down first.
Yes.
I posted a video not too long ago about this exact thing, but you have to master the basics and be so good at them first. All the other stuff will fall in line. But we all want to just skip over that. We live in a society that wants to
Yes.
skip over that. And so it sounds like that's what you're somewhat hinting at is we've got to get this person mentally to the place where they need to have that accountability and
And
consistency.
yes, that accountability, that consistency, and in some uh, respects, the confidence. That's one thing I always fed into my kids was confidence. The and when I say my kids, I'm sorry, I'm not talking my two sons. I'm talking thousands.
I've coached for a long time, and once you do it for long enough, I agree,
They're your
they're
kids.
all your kids because you want the best for all of them.
Exactly. But also through coaching thousands of them, I've kind of learned which buttons to push on different types of kids. Uh, I always tell, we matter of fact, we joke about it. I always tell them when football's up there yelling, I said, man, they're coaching in the Old Testament. And when the kids will say, what are you talking about? And I said, well,
That's funny.
do it or I'll kill you, you
Yeah.
know? And I said, we're down here in the New Testament, but do it because you love the team. But by the same token, you got to know some kids you need to go Old Testament with, but that's what they thrive on. And then others, you put them in a hole.
There was a video, I don't know if you saw it on ESPN or they just posted it was a female coach yelling at her player.
Oh,
Did you see
yes.
that
I
video?
loved it.
And people were a mixed bag about it. But here's the deal: that player came out and said, "Look, that's the way I need to be coached. Some
Yes.
people need that. Some people don't. My youngest son, he's 9, great athlete at 9 years old, but somebody starts yelling at him, and he wants to please people, right? So
Yeah.
to him, he's just like, oh, did I do something wrong? And he's learning like, oh,
Yeah.
this is good correction. But for that player that was on ESPN getting yelled at, she's
Yeah.
like, "That's exactly what I need. I need
Yes.
somebody to really just
And
inspire me
what
in
was
that
she
way."
screaming?
She
I
was screaming
believe in you.
positive affirmations.
Yes,
Yes,
I believe in you.
yes.
And uh and you can ask anybody I coached. I scream.
I think all coaches have to do that at some point. I mean,
Yes.
you got to have that in you, and your coffee. Throw in your coffee at least once or
Yeah,
twice
oh,
a
yeah,
year. I
you
read
did
about
you
that.
like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
You
so
got to.
funny.
Hey, sometimes you have to make that impression. There's an old story of a drill sergeant that um, when he trained people, he would do that. He'd just yell and everything. But when he got to the battlefield with them, he was calm as can be,
Mhm.
and they realized he was training them up to
Yes.
understand, like, I can deal with the pressure, but here's the calmness and here's how we're going to get
Right.
through it. But you have to show that you have to show your cards every now and then
Every
on that.
now and then, and like I said, I was never mad, but I could sense my team was getting comfortable.
Mhm.
And
Complacency will kill you.
yeah, and so, uh, and, I talked about that, I would throw my coffee, but I wasn't I'd tell the
Didn't you
assistants.
already have another one like ready to
Oh,
go? Is
yeah.
that what
No,
you
I
did?
had
Yeah.
extra coffee so I could fill it up. But oh, and this story I don't think made the book. I told the story, but uh, one time recently, my longtime assistant coach, she ran for me and she coached and coach. And anyway, we were walking up to workout, and I said, "Hey," I said, "Christine," I said, "I'm going to throw my coffee and walk off about 30 minutes into this." I said, "So you got them for the rest of the workout, and get them pumped up." And she goes, "Oh, okay." And I'm sitting here with my cup of coffee, and all of a sudden she stops and just stares at me, and I keep walking. I stop and I look at her, and she says, "You mean," I mean, we're talking 15 years before,
Yeah.
"you mean when you threw your coffee at Heather and I, you weren't mad?" And I said, No, I wasn't mad at all." And she goes, "I don't even think I know you anymore."
That's funny. But you needed to make that impression on them to get a
Yes.
point
Yeah.
across. Yeah, and to also let people know, hey, I mean serious business from time to time.
Yeah.
That's I will tell you one of my things that I always kind of wrestled with in when I was leading our as a lieutenant over our SWAT team, our warrant team, the hostage negotiators, help with that. The biggest thing that I wrestled with them is that I just don't get super excited too easily, right?
Right.
And so people can take advantage of that. Every once in a while, when somebody would mess up, not to get onto them, but I would have to almost show an example of, like, I will get onto your butt and we're going to do things right. And they're like, oh, he does mean business, right?
Hmm.
Like, he's very relatable, but he
Yes.
means business when he means business. And then um, we can continue to not be complacent and operate on it. So you have to have your coffee throws every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't know
Every
how else
now
to
and
say it,
then.
but yes.
Yeah. You got to
Yeah,
have them.
100%. This hit me really well right in the beginning of the book. Three things that you focus on. You said people are capable of more. You want them to finish better than they started with character and integrity, and there is hope.
Yes. There is hope. You know, uh, we get so wrapped up in, uh, we think our value is in our latest click or in our latest share of likes on YouTube. And that's not it at all. I want them to see that there is hope, and that uh, you know, that if you're going to have hope, there's hope in Jesus. And sometimes people ask me, they go, "Well, you're in a public school. How did you get away with that?" And my answer was the same. I just never was quiet.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
I mean, no, I was never called out on it. And well, I was
So when
once.
you say, so nobody told you, hey, tone it down a little bit.
One time, I had a parent from another school, because we always uh, had Hebrews 2:12 on our shirts, and that verse, and this lady came to me and said, "Are you the Decatur coach?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She said, uh, "Well, there's church and state, and you got a Bible verse on your school's warm up top." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she goes, "Well, that's wrong." And I said, "Well, then don't wear one."
That's simple. Yeah. If you don't want to represent it, don't represent it. I have a text from a history book on my shirt. That's what I
That's
have.
yes, you know. And,
And we know it's more than that.
oh, absolutely. And but you know what people don't understand is the kids design the shirts. You know, it's not my shirt. It's not my team.
That's powerful. Yes.
And
I bet, especially the ones that got to design it, they were proud to wear that shirt.
oh, absolutely.
They took ownership in that.
Hmm.
I'm sure
Yes.
everybody on the team.
Nobody wanted me to design. I'm colorblind, so nobody wanted me designing anything.
Coach, it's just black and white. There's no color on this shirt. Now, my artistic eye is questionable at times. I think
Yeah.
there's better people out there. I'll be honest, there's so many more things in this book that we can talk about. And I think we need to have a part two maybe coming up
Okay.
at some point,
Man, I'm
is
excited.
probably what we'll do. But I do want to ask you one final question here.
Absolutely.
Down, this is what I wrote down, so I'll just read it. Your book is an amazing reflection of your life and the legacy that you leave with people. Is there one final quote or one final thought that you would leave with everybody? The last thing that if you could leave with an athlete or the world, what would it be? What would that
Ooh,
final, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but
yeah.
um, what would that final thing be that you could leave with people? If you never saw them again, if it's the last thing,
You are capable of far more than you believe. You and let me tell you, and if you'll do it with Christ, you are capable of far more than anyone will believe.
so powerful.
That would be it. That, you know, we're in a world of underachievers, and the limits we put on them are ourselves. I mean, we're putting the lid on ourselves.
But we live in a system where we see people limit themselves and we just have the same effect
Mm-hmm.
that we do the same thing. We have so much more that we can offer. That lactic acid zone you were talking about, the breakthrough zone, like there's so much that people have that they haven't tapped into yet. So that's what I'm hearing from you, is that
Yes.
the people are capable, and there's another source of power they can tap into that's
Yes.
far greater than what we can experience on the ordinary.
Absolutely. I hate the word normal
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
because normal means where most of the population is.
Yes.
You know, I got news. You do blood work. You know, through cancer, I was always doing blood work, right? Well, normal would be the green. All right. Well, you would think abnormal is bad, but what if a certain part of your blood work was abnormal, but abnormally good?
Yep.
And it's the same premise with everything else. The world's here and it's normal. Rise above normal. Be abnormal. Because if you want to be noticed, be abnormal. If you want to be great at something, be abnormal.
The best leaders that I've ever seen are people who take a stand on something, or voice their opinion, or allow their team to put a Bible verse on their shirt.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are. Well, do you remember that ad from Apple, like that 1984 ad that was? They talk about being a world changer, right?
Yes.
Those are the best leaders, the ones that are not afraid to put their neck out there and test it and see what happens. Take the leap. That's what I
Yes.
would say. Um,
Yes.
but you're going to have to go against the normal grain to do that. You're going to have to be abnormal in some sense to do that. And it
Yes.
takes a lot of courage.
It does.
It takes a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude for people to do that. Um, but then you see other people doing it effortlessly, and you're like, how are they doing? Once you take that first leap and you realize
Mm-hmm.
it's not that scary, the second leap is not as hard.
Right.
And that's where I try to get in. I think that what you're talking about, when kids come into your program, if they can take that first leap and just show up, give me 3 weeks,
Yeah.
they're going to be in here. Right. Okay. Excellent advice. I appreciate the time that you've given me today. We're going to have a part two.
I
I didn't even
would
get through
love
half
to.
of the stuff that I wanted to, but I do want to give you one more opportunity here. If you would, where can we find your book? Tell me about the 90% that you're talking about. How can people connect with you and hook up with you and find you?
First thing, you can email me at david.park@davidparkleadership.com. Uh, or if you want the book, you can just go to davidparkleadership.com and you can order it there, or you can order it on Amazon. But if uh, if you'll order it through my site, I'll make sure and sign it and uh, write a little note and uh,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Here we go. Look at this. I got my signed copy in here. I'm a sucker for that all the time, for sure.
and then also you can find me on YouTube at David Park Leadership and the and on Facebook.
Tell me about your Friday,
Oh,
your
2 cent.
2 cents. Yeah. Tell me about that just real quick.
Yeah, every Friday I come out with Coach Park's 2 cents, and it originated. I was teaching video editing, and we were doing the announcements, and every Friday the kids said, "Hey, you need to do a little quick bit on Fridays." And I said,
Hmm.
"Okay, we'll make it Coach Park's 2 cents." Well, when I left school and I retired, the question I got, and not just from the kids at school, was, "Where am I going to get my 2 cents?" And so I've made a deal with them that I would continue to do it. And so every Friday, and I post it on Facebook and it's on my YouTube and it's also on LinkedIn. But I do my 2 cents and the, you know, find it. It's some of them's good, some of them isn't as good as others. I mean, it's like anything else.
Yeah.
Just a little meaningful quote.
You give your 2 cents, and for some people, it'll probably resonate with quite a bit. And some people, that one may not, but the next one may. Um, so what I'll tell people is go to davidparkleadership.com,
.com. That's my website.
and you can find your socials. You can find
Yes.
all those things on there. The book right here, as you can see, where's the best place for them to order? Is it your website or Amazon? Where would you prefer people to order
I
that
would
from?
prefer them to order it from my website
From your website. Okay.
because I like to take a little personal care with that. Plus, by doing that, uh, I'll have a little newsletter that goes out that they'll be added to uh, in case there's some other things going on that, if the book resonates with them, uh, great. And there might be things in that
Hmm.
uh, that I can help further. If it doesn't, just unsubscribe.
And subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Click
You know,
yourself out of there. Last thing, can you for those people who are interested, can you tell me about the 90% or the program that you're doing with kids? And when is that starting?
okay,
How does that work? Just
that
a real quick
is,
rundown.
I'm hoping for that to start, and let me back up and tell you how I do it. If it is a program where I'm gonna, whether it's in person or via Zoom. Matter of fact, I've got a little team of kids in Mississippi that their parents want them to go through it. But so I meet with those kids and those parents. I meet them on Zoom. But I want to meet with the parents so that they know exactly what I'm teaching.
So you're getting basically everybody on board here. It's not just a one man show.
Oh yes,
It's an
absolutely.
immersion type of event where you're pulling everybody
Yes.
in.
And I
Yeah.
tell them what I'm gonna work with the kids on. And then uh we have various price tags according to, uh, for example, I had one that wants me to be just one on one with his son, and then, but what I like to do, to be honest, is do small groups of kids about the same age because kids tend to open. I'm to them, I'm kind of a stranger a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to take a while to build multiple trust. But if I get in a group setting with them, where maybe they know some of the other participants,
Or at least they see they're not the only one going through this as well. It's
yes,
easier to go through things in a group.
yes. So I've got different avenues, and I want to present that to the parent and what fits them.
So the best thing they can do is probably contact you to figure out what's going to be the best
Yes,
course of action for their child to go through this program with
the
you.
course is coming out of here,
Okay.
but I've built it out to the and I, and it can range anywhere from 6 weeks, a weekly visit in 6 weeks, or 10 weeks, or 10 weeks, and let's see where we go from there if they're adding value. Because if I'm not
Gotcha.
adding value, if then
Then what are we doing? Yeah.
then what are
Well,
we doing? Okay, because it's going to resonate with some and it's not others, and I'm good with that. I get that.
well, and I think that's the power of, I'm a different person than you, and some people may resonate with me better than you or the next person. But if we're all in this together, that's why both of us teach leadership,
Yes,
but we can work together to make everybody better. We don't have
that's
to
right.
we don't have to compete with each other in that sphere. Yeah. So if parents are looking for something to give their kid the extra edge, the confidence, the accountability, and consistency is what I'm hearing from you.
Yes,
Reach out to you on the 90% program. It's going to be on your website,
yes.
davidparkleadership.com.
Uh-huh.
They can find information there and then reach out to you. And from there, you'll have a conversation
It's
about what that
matter
looks
of
like.
fact, part of it's already on Facebook, and if you
Okay.
just click that Facebook link, you're going to get, in a nutshell. I did a short 3-minute video of what the mindset is of it,
Gotcha.
and uh, so, but yes, I'm real excited about
Well,
this
I'll have to
because
send my kids
I'm going
through
to
your
be
program
honest,
pretty soon here.
hey, because it's nothing else. It's nothing more than what I taught the kids I coached. It's it's that exactly. And so I real quick, I laugh because somebody says, "Well, I'd like to teach them that," and I said, "Well, good, go ahead. You know, I get
Knock your
that.
socks off. Yeah.
You know." But what was so funny was, and I'm not going to mention the other coach. When I came to Decatur, okay, we had a coach, and his son was a really good athlete, and towards the end of practice, track practice, they would go out and work at the discus ring. Okay.
Okay.
And I'd be out still on the track with, you know, there's always that one kid needs to take one more start or jump or whatever, you know. And I could hear them yelling at each other over on the track. And this was the old school. And finally, one day, it went on for about a week. And finally, I went up to him and I said, "Let me coach him." And he said, "Oh, he just won't listen." I said, "I get it." He goes, "I'm telling him the right stuff." I said,
This is a father son.
"Yes."
Of course.
I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah. My kids don't listen to
"Hey,
anything I say.
oh man," he got frustrated because I started coaching him. Wonder started
Probably
listening.
doing the exact same.
Oh,
Tell you
no,
told him the same thing his dad told him, but
exactly. No, not kinda. I mean,
exactly to the T.
yeah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Wonder's hanging on every word. Okay. Yeah, we called the kid Wonder. He was that good of an athlete. All right. Now, fast forward. It's a Saturday and I'm at the discus ring with my son. And guess what's happening?
Exact same thing. I'm assuming the exact same thing. Yes.
And I'll never forget. I didn't even know Dennis was there because it wasn't a formal practice or anything. I guess he just drove by, and we're at this school now. And all of a sudden, I felt this hand on my back, and he said, "Tag, I'm in." And I said,
Full
"Yes,
circle. Yes.
yes." And it came full circle. What was so funny was, you know, and Dennis was actually his offensive line coach too. And it got to where I'd just say, "Dennis," I said, "Tell my son to get a haircut," because he ain't listening to me. Dennis, later that day, "Hey, Dad, you got 20 bucks? I can go to Pro Cuts.
Get a
Coach
haircut.
says I need a haircut." You know, I mean, so yeah, sometimes it just needs, with youth, it just needs to be somebody
It
else.
does. Well, we could rabbit trail on this all day long. So here's what I want to say. Go to davidparkleadership.com, correct?
Yes.
And look for the book here. Here's the book. You have, is it called 90%?
Youth Champion Mindset
Youth.
Pro.
Okay. So the Youth Champion Mindset Program. Go look on your website for all of that
Mhm.
stuff. Connect on there. He'll go to his website so you can get the book and his newsletter. And if you don't want to be on it, you can simply unsubscribe. But
That's
I'm
right.
sure there's some good stuff on there. I I can probably tell right now that uh, not everything like I put out will resonate with you, but I'm sure that most of the stuff you have will resonate
Mhm.
with most people. So I appreciate it. I appreciate your time today,
You bet.
being in
I
here. We are
enjoyed it.
definitely going to have to do a part two.
Yeah, I know where I know where his studio is now. So this
Yes,
is
you know where our studio is. We'll definitely have to do a part two. This is my, like I said, first time doing it with a guest in here. So hopefully everything worked out. I'll have to call you and be like, hey, we're going to have to re-record that. No, I hope we don't have to do any of that. But it's been a pleasure because I've learned way more beyond the book than what originally um, we've talked about. And just for a reference point for everybody, you and I actually met at a local coffee shop.
Yes,
It
we
it
did.
wasn't it wasn't through a mixer event or some type
No.
of networking thing. You and I actually met at a coffee shop, and God just has a mysterious way of pulling things together. So
Yes, he does.
I appreciate very much the time coming in here and spending with me. If you guys are on my channel, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Pursuing excellence is one of the biggest core things that I believe you should do as a person. You should always be pursuing excellence, a relentless determination, do the best you can with what you have to create meaningful achievements, experiences, and relationships and help others do the same. And so the podcast is called Pursuing Excellence Podcast. I would love it if you would like and subscribe and share so that Mr. David and I here can continue to just give out some really good information to people
Yeah.
and for free. We're
Yeah.
going to put this out, and we just want to make the world a better place. So do me a favor, like and subscribe there, and then go check out my website. It's called commandstandard.com, and there's a reason why it's command standard leadership. I believe if it's missing structured and standardization. So command is the structured and standardization of leadership, and my 4 laws of leadership fall in that. So commandstandard.com. Sign up for my newsletter there as well. Post this up there with your information on there. Mr. Park, it was a pleasure. I appreciate it. We'll
Oh,
have to
you
do part
bet.
two soon.
I'll look forward to it.
All right. Thank you very much.
You bet.